Hello, my name is Larry McIntyre. I'm the Communications Director for Village of Westmont, and tonight for our Environmental Improvement Commission meeting, we have a awesome presentation on our water division from our Director of Public Works, Mr. Mike Ramsey, and I'm just going to read a little introduction here. Mike began work with the Village of Westmont in 1982, and he has been a full-time employee since 1986. He is an IEPA Class A public water supply operator and only one of 2 board certified professional water operators in the state of Illinois. He's also a certified water operator instructor for ISA WWA. In 2014, Mr. Ramsey was named the State of Illinois Water Professional of the Year, and in 2015, he was awarded the Educate Award for his instruction and class on C&D Water Operators class and Utility Management course. In addition to that, it's not on the bio, but last year Mike was part of a team of Westmont staff that won an international award for innovation with public works tools. And I can also say that Mike is a very sought-after speaker, not only here in the state of Illinois, but nationally and internationally when it comes to water works. So, Mr. Ramsey, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you very much, Larry. I appreciate that. Okay, so I'm honored to be here tonight. I know we've had a lot of questions from our public and from EIC committee. So I'm hopefully here tonight I can help you guys understand a little bit more what we do in the water industry and what we do for the Village of Westmont, and also to try to answer any questions you might have. So first thing I want to talk about is one of the things that a lot of questions I get is what kind of samples does the Village of Westmont do? As far as, you know, when we go out into the public, what samples are we taking? What are we trying to prevent? What are we trying to get samples for? So I want to kind of go through that a little bit tonight. So our lab is at 39 East Burlington, and we do just under 10,000 water samples a year on average. Okay, last year we did just over 9,000, but every year it fluctuates depending on the year. You can see on the graph here, we did 485 BAC-T samples, which are bacteriological samples. We did, back in 2014, we did 30 lead and copper samples, which I'll get into a little bit more later. We did trihalomethanes and haloacetic acid samples. UCMR3 samples. We did our well 13, which is our backup well. We had to do 12 samples there. We did VOCs, SOCs, TOCs, nitrates, nitrites, and radium. And then our daily water samples in the lab, we did over 8,000 of those. So you can see we test the water a lot in the Village of Westmont, okay? That's only us. I mean, DuPage Water Commission does a lot of water samples every year, and the City of Chicago does over 1 million water samples a year. So we know by the time the water gets out here, we know that water's been tested and it's very safe to drink. You know, a lot of people think we just get the water from Lake Michigan, that's just however it comes from Lake Michigan, that's how it is, but that's not really the case. And all the way down the line, we sample. So it's very important to make sure the water's safe for our residents. Lead has been a really popular topic over the last year and a half, about a year or so. Flint, Michigan. You know, everybody has heard about Flint, Michigan, about the lead issue there. And to give you a little background on what happened there was Flint decided to change their water source. They had been getting the water from Lake Huron for years. And what they decided to do was to change their source to a river closer to Flint. And the problem was it was going to take 2 years to get that process where we were going to start getting water from the river close to Flint. So what they started doing was taking it from the Flint River instead of this other river that they had planned on taking it from. And what they didn't understand was, or they didn't plan for, was that water was very acidic, very toxic water. They needed to treat the water, and they needed to line their lead services before they started giving the water to the residents. And they didn't do that, unfortunately. And so what happened was the lead started leaching into the water, and that's why their lead levels were so high. It wasn't because of the water itself, but because the water was it was so high in just toxicity that it started eating away the inside of the pipe. What they should have done was, one, they could have treated the water before it got to the pipes, or two, they could have lined the pipes with some type of polyphosphate or something, and would have prevented the lead from leaching into the water. They didn't do either one of these, and that's why we're in the situation we are now with the lead restrictions we're going to have to start doing. So I'll get into that in a few minutes too, what State of Illinois is going to have to do. But here's some facts and myths that people don't understand about lead a lot of times. They think lead is naturally found in drinking water, which is not true. There is no lead in the water. Okay, the lead is always from which you'll see is from the pipes and from solder. Okay, that's where the lead comes from. So old lead lines or old copper lines with solder, that's where you can get the lead from. Okay, the village has been testing for lead since 1992. That is true. We have been testing. We used to do 60 lead and copper samples every year, and because our lead levels were so low, the EPA put us on a lower, a reduced monitoring, and now we only have to do 30 every 3 years. Before we were doing 60 every year. So that just tells you that even in Westmont, our water is pretty good. We don't have to worry about the lead so much because we test it so often and the levels are so low, we don't have to worry about it. The village has never exceeded a 90 percentile rule, and what that is that our lead and copper samples since 1992 have never exceeded 90 percentile, which means less than 10% of our samples have ever failed. In fact, out of all the samples we've ever taken, only 2 have ever failed. One was because a family was out of town for 2 weeks, and they found the lead bottle on their porch. They went and they filled up the water right away, which they're supposed to do as a first draw. But the problem was that water was sitting in that lead pipe for 2 weeks without being drawn. And so, of course, they turned it on and had high levels of lead. The other one, we don't know why there was high levels of lead, because we went back out there and resampled and it was fine. But we've had 2 samples that failed in all those years. All the other years, we had no lead samples fail ever. So we've had a pretty good track record here in Westmont with that. And then is the village responsible for replacing all lead services? That is false. A lot of people think that because of this issue, that the municipalities are going to step up and start replacing all these lead services. Well, that's a huge cost and a huge undertaking. We're still trying to figure out what we're going to do, but I'll explain to you a little bit later what Westmont's been doing since 1981 about lead services. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But you can see the diagram below. The village is only responsible for the water service from the water main to the Buffalo box. From the Buffalo box into the house is the residential's responsibility. So even if the village of Westmont, which we've already been doing, but even if we want to be really aggressive, we can only replace the service from the main to the Buffalo box. We can't go on private property to replace any lead services that might already be there. So that would be a homeowner's responsibility. For now, that's the way it is. The government is trying to change that. Okay, there's an Illinois Senate bill currently right now, it's SB 550, about Lead in Drinking Water Prevention Act. If this bill gets passed in the state legislature, here are the changes that will be required by every municipality in the state of Illinois as the bill is currently written. Municipalities will have to increase their number of sample sites by a factor of 10. Currently, Westmont does 30 lead and copper samples every 3 years at a cost around $10,000. If this bill gets passed, it would cost the village a minimum of $100,000 every 3 years to sample 300 sites. And that's minimum. That's not taking into account the man hours, finding all these new sites, going out and sampling them, all that. It's a huge cost. But again, you know, if that's what the state wants us to do, then that's something we're going to have to try to figure out how we're going to pay for. And then the other step is any school K through 5 built before 1986 would have to sample all the water fixtures in the school, and the municipality would have to incur all the sampling costs for their school district. Again, it would cost millions of thousands of dollars to pay for all the sampling, because every water fixture in every school, K through 5, that's a lot of sampling. So, and if the samples come back bad, then the school is going to be required to replace that fixture at their cost, and then we'd have to go back and resample again until that water was safe to drink. Currently, we have not done that yet. I know it's something that some City of Chicago has done, and I know some municipalities are looking into that. We're planning on doing something like that this year. FAQs, most frequently asked questions. Now, these are some of the questions I get a lot from residents and from committee members like yourselves. What is Westmont's radon level compared to Chicago? That was one question I received recently. Radon gas that is found in groundwater is only found in groundwater only. So Westmont keeps one emergency backup well, that's well 13, and its radon level is 10.2. That was back in 2015. Chicago's radon level is an average of 6.6. Now, you got to understand that radon level is just our emergency backup well. We don't use that water for drinking water. It's just there in case of emergency. If something was to happen, we couldn't get our water from the city of Chicago, we'd still have a backup well not only to fight fires, but to supply some type of water to our residents. So you'd have to still have to boil the water, but at least the water would be safe to drink and you could still use it for that. But that's the only reason we have it. It's just as an emergency. So as far as the radon level goes, the reason it's so high is because that well is a very deep well. It goes, actually, we get that water from Lake Superior. That well is about 1,650 feet deep. And the deeper you go, obviously the radon level is a little bit higher down there. That's why our level is a little bit higher than the city of Chicago's. Second question is, does the city of Chicago test for pharmaceuticals in drinking water? Chicago has tested for them, but it's not an EPA required test. The last time city of Chicago did it, they only found minute traces of a set of I can't say that.
Acetaminophen.
Yeah, thank you. And it was in, less than 1 billion milligrams per liter. So it's very minute. The only city in the entire United States that tests for pharmaceuticals on a regular basis is Milwaukee. The reason is because, one, they had a problem up there. They found high levels of pharmaceuticals in their water, so they started testing for it, and they actually changed their treatment process to try to take care of that problem. They use ozone, or they use reverse osmosis to try to get rid of those pharmaceuticals in the water. They are the only city, though, in the United States that found really, really high levels that they had to try to do something about. Chicago's, like I said, are very minute, so the problem with the treatment of either reverse osmosis or ozone is it's a very expensive process. And for a city that large, it is very expensive to try to do something about it, unfortunately. The third one is, where does Westmont take their water samples from and how many? Again, we take it throughout the entire city. The EPA requires us to make sure we have sample sites throughout the whole city. We submit a map of where we take our samples, and then they approve it, and then we go out and take the samples from there. Again, we do 40 a month for back teas. We also do trihalomethanes and haloacidic acids quarterly. We do 4 of those every quarter, and again, that's throughout the village. Okay, so now I want to talk about Village of Westmont's water conservation program. This is something that I'm pretty proud of. It's something that we've been working with DuPage Water Commission on for the last 15 years. Their goal was to see every municipality in DuPage County reduce their water usage by 10% by 2020. It was something that they started in 2010. So we've been working hard to try to do that ourselves, and we've already achieved that goal. We've already reduced our water usage by over 10% already. Part of that is because of this program. Part of it is because people are just more aware of water conservation. A lot of water fixtures now, or water sense fixtures. Toilets are low flushing toilets now. When you flush a toilet, back in the day it was 5 gallons every time you flushed a toilet. Now it's 1.6 gallons. Some toilets are 1.2. So between the new fixtures and our program and just people being more aware, we have already reached our goal. One thing we do, though, is public education. We try to reach out from everybody from little kids in school all the way up to adults. And we do that in a couple different ways. One thing we've done is a holidays parade around Christmas time down Cass Avenue. Yes, that is me dressed up as a toilet. That was our water conservation program. We gave hand out rain shower timers, rain barrels we've handed out before, water bottles, whatever. We've done everything. So that's one thing that we've done, is to try to promote, just get people excited about water conservation. Another thing we've done is Fix a Leak Week. We've done that twice. Unfortunately, the turnout hasn't been the greatest with Fix a Leak Week, but it was successful for the people who came. They were excited about it. We handed out a lot of information, and people appreciated us doing it. And then the last thing is we try to go out to the schools. And last year we did a science fair at Westview Hills, where we went out and promoted water conservation and got kids excited, had them testing the water, as you can see in this picture, and a lot of kids really enjoyed that. So it was a lot of fun for both us and the kids. So Rain Barrel program is another program that we do. We started that with, Larry helped us with this back in 2013, and since then we've sold over 350 rain barrels to the residents of Westmont. Something we're pretty proud of. I know a lot of other towns have started rain barrel programs but haven't been as successful as we have, but it's been great. We've done a great job, and we continue to do that even today. Water meters replacement program, that is a huge thing, because you want to make sure that the meters that you have in your town are accurate. Okay, it's very important to make sure that They're the most accurate meters, and they're succinct. We want to make sure we are charging what we're pumping out to the residents. It's a very important thing. So currently, in the last 4 years, we replaced 4,562 meters in town, and you can see the different sizes there. This year alone, I know we've done over 250, almost 300, so we're getting close to replacing 5,000 meters already, but we still have a lot of work to do. And you can see here is that in the next 4 years, we still have we should be just under 2,000 meters left now, and we still have a lot to replace. But to finish this program costs money. Unfortunately, it's going to cost almost $2 million to finish this program. So that's why we have to do it over a period of time. We can't just do it all at once. One thing that's nice about these new meters, though, is that we drive by and read the meters. When I started here back in 1986 full time, we used to have to walk house to house. It would take us 33 days to read all the meters. Now it takes less than 3 hours. So we're more efficient, we're quicker, we get to use less energy. There's a lot of benefits to using these new meters. Every meter has a leak detection device on top, so if you have a leak in your house, you'll know about it. You can go down, look at the meter, and if that little triangle's moving, you'll know you're using water that you shouldn't be using. So it's a good way to make sure that you only use the water you want to use. We also had a water main replacement program. Back in 1991, end of 91, beginning of 92, we started receiving Lake Michigan water. And my old boss, Clinton Webb, had the foresight to start replacing the water main right then and there. And with him and our village board members back then, had the ingenuity to say, let's go ahead and start doing this. And thank God they did, because if they didn't, I don't know where we'd be right now. We'd probably be like Arlington Heights, who have over 300 main breaks a year. Right now, from the last 15 years, it's cost us over $13 million to replace all these, over 15 miles of water main, but it's reduced our water main percentage by over 81% over the last 15 years, or actually 25 years. And in 1991, we had 108 water main breaks. Last year, we only had 24. And out of those 24, 6 of them weren't even caused by us. So we only had 18 really on our system. In the past 25 years, we've saved over approximately $11 million in water loss, repair costs, and overtime. So you can see, just by us being proactive, we've pretty much paid for this program itself. So it's something that I'm really proud of. I'm a big advocate of being proactive on replacing things. I know you'll see in the next slide, we still have a little bit more to go. We approximately have 11 more miles of water main that needs to be replaced. When all 11 miles have been replaced, our water main in town will be we won't have a water main older than 1974, which I'll tell you right now, if you talk to any municipality around this area, they would love to be able to say that. So it's something that's really been great for us. But again, there's a cost to that, and the cost to replace the 11 miles of water mains currently is about $10 million. So it's something that we're slowly working towards. Like I said, hopefully our goal is to have this done within the next 10 years, and we won't have any older water main than 1974, which is unbelievable. Water system maintenance program, which is another big thing. Obviously, you got this great water infrastructure where you're going to have to maintain it. Hydrant flushing program, we hydrant flush every year. We do all the dead ends in town. Back in the day when we were on well water, we used to have to flush twice a year. But now with our flushing program now and the cost of water, it's not cost efficient to go out and flush twice a year. So we just do all the dead ends, make sure that the water quality is great. We do unidirectional flushing, which we isolate certain areas of town, open up the hydrants, flush all the water out, and then we open those valves back up. One, it's cost effective, we don't use as much water, and you still get the same results. Another big thing we do is hydrant and valve maintenance program. We go out, every 2 years we've touched every hydrant. Every single hydrant in town has been checked, made sure it worked, made sure it turned, made sure it operated correctly. Same thing with our valves. 1 year we do hydrants, next year we do valves. Next year we do hydrants, next year we do valves. So we alternate. So every 2 years, every hydrant in town or every valve in town has been touched. And we do come across some hydrants and valves that don't work, then we replace them. And the big thing we've been doing since I took over in 2006 is replace some hydrants. And we've replaced over 65 hydrants since 2006. And we have about 25 or 30 left. And once those are done, we won't have a hydrant older than 1975 in town. So that's another thing that's pretty something to hang your hat on, is that there's a lot of towns that have really old hydrants that don't work. Ours, I can guarantee you, they're all going to work. So it's a good program that we have that we keep doing every year. Leak detection program is another big one. We go out and we correlate our entire town every 3 years. So we go out and we check and see if there's any leaks that we can't see, leaks that don't surface. And last year was the last year we did that, in 2015, and we correlated the entire town, and we found 4 leaks. So that's not too bad. Really small leaks that weren't surfacing. We went up, dug them up, fixed them, boom, we were done. So it's another good program that we were proactive, that we're not wasting water. Because again, we're buying this water from the City of Chicago and DuPage Water Commission. We want to make sure that we're delivering what we're buying. We're not wasting anything. Bottled water versus tap water. Before I get into this, I just want to ask you guys a quick question. How old, can anybody tell me this? How old is this bottle of water? Anybody tell me?
Usually they shouldn't have a date on the bottle.
It might.
Yeah, according to the
Water?
consumer guideline,
Beer does.
any of the products on the shelf shouldn't have expired date.
And this doesn't. You want to know why? Because this is not regulated by anything. But it's not regulated by the FDA, it's not regulated by the EPA. Bottled water is the only thing you buy at a store that's not regulated by anybody. It's the only thing. But anyway, that's not the question I was asking. How old is this bottle of water?
So we don't know.
Take a guess. How old do you think it is?
That's interesting.
Take a guess. If anybody gets close, you guys take anything you want up there. 2 years? Good guess. How old do you think it is?
I'm gonna go 9 months.
9 months. Good guess.
3 months.
3 months?
Let's go 5 years. Let's go
5
old.
years. Okay.
7 years.
7 years.
We're like on a price.
This water,
Are we doing, yeah, what rules are we
this
doing?
water
Right
is
rules?
4.6 billion years old. Right?
Wait, one more time.
It's 4.6 billion years old.
For the water is?
Water is 4.6 billion years. You know why? Because dinosaurs drank that water. Your ancestors drank that water. Founding fathers, cowboys and Indians, cavemen. Why is that? Because the water we have on this earth is only water we're ever going to have. This water is the same water that people drank it was on this earth 4.6 billion years ago. Because that's when they determined that's when water was first formed on this earth. It's the only water we're ever going to have, unless they find water on another planet or something like that. So my point is, this is the only water we're ever going to have, so we must cherish it, protect it, conserve it, make sure it's drinkable for everyone, make sure that we don't destroy our only natural resource that's the most important resource in the world. Because you can't live without water. Everybody needs it, every living animal needs it. So that was my point, that this is the same water that, and it's the truth. That water was drank by, who knows, back 400 years ago. Who knows?
But he said 2 years and you said good guess, so you misled us.
I'm just saying, I don't want to give it away too much, but that's the truth. It's 4.6 billion years old, right? Nobody can argue that
Interesting.
fact. So anyway, I just want to give you guys an idea, start thinking about that this is the same water that's been here forever, and if we don't take care of it, we're not going to have it much longer. Bottled water versus tap water. This is a highly argumentative topic, I guess is the best way I can say it. A lot of people are passionate about these two topics. So the truth about bottled water, I'll get into a little bit. It takes 3 times more water to produce a bottle of water than it does to fill it. Okay, so think about that. There's a lot of other facts here. The price of bottled water is up 10,000 times the cost of tap water. And I'll give you an idea exactly how much the difference is in cost in Westmont. And 40% of bottled water is taken from municipal water sources, tap water. 2 of 3 of the most popular brands in North American water come from the tap water, which people don't know. And I'll give you an example of that too, is that the bottling company up in Niles, Illinois, where they make Coca-Cola, their bottled water comes right from the tap. Niles Public Works had to run a special line into the building, and what they do is they take that water out of the tap, they run it through a filter, they bottle it, and they sell it. That's all they do. And it's sold bottled water. I forgot which brand it is. I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but that's what it is. And 2 out of every 3, all the water, they say it's naturally spring water from the mountains. No, most of it comes from a tap water. They're lying to you. So just want you guys aware of that. Facts about bottled water versus tap water also. Tap water is regulated by the EPA. Okay, tap water, we got to make sure it's safe for everybody to drink. Bottled water is not regulated by anyone. It's the only product at a store that is not regulated by anyone. That water could be sitting there for 10 years and you'd be drinking it and you wouldn't know it. Tap water costs less than a quarter of a cent per 20 ounces, okay? Bottled water is $1.79 per 20 ounces. When I bought this water today, it was $1.79. That's how much it was when I bought this water today. Tap water contains low levels of fluoride to fight tooth decay in children. Bottled water has no fluoride, and children have a 25% higher rate of tooth decay. They did a study, and they found out that children who only drink bottled water actually have more chance of getting cavities, and they do get more cavities. Bottled water uses 2,000 times more energy to make than tap water. Bottled water produces 2.5 million tons of carbon dioxide every year. And we could fuel 100,000 cars a year if we didn't purchase bottled water. And you can see that picture. That gives you an example. That's just bottled water. And if you know anything about Pacific Ocean, there's a plastic bottle island that's floating in Pacific Ocean right now. I'm sure you guys are aware of it. But that's the byproduct of some of this. I mean, it's not just bottled water, it's soda and other things too, but bottled water is a big is a big proponent of why we're getting those problems. We did a taste test here in Westmont. I walked over here, this is about 3 or 4 years ago, actually it's longer than that, about 5, 6 years ago. Walked over and asked some village employees to do a blind taste test. And what we did was I went out and bought 5 different bottles of water from different companies, just random bottles, I didn't care who they're from, and we had tap water. So we had 6 different bottles of water, and I poured them out in different cups, and I had the 8 employees test them and taste them and say, which one they liked, which one they didn't, whatever. It was kind of ironic because they didn't know what they were drinking, but out of the ones they drank, 4 of the village employees chose the tap water sample out of the 8 samples, or out of 6 samples, I should say. 4 and then 2 picked Nestle's bottled water, and the other 2 picked Evian bottled water. Those are the ones they liked. So this just proves that the taste is not necessarily the driving force of drinking bottled water. So why do people buy bottled water? If it's not the taste, why are people buying it?
Convenience.
There you go. 51% of Americans drink bottled water for the convenience factor. It's easy. Grab it, right? Go in the fridge, grab it, take it, go, right? But why couldn't you do that with bottled water? You just grab it, aluminum, take it, and go with you. Just keep it in your fridge. 38% of Americans drink bottled water because it tastes better. A lot of people think, it tastes better to me. I don't like the taste of tap water. But, I proved here that half the people thought it tasted better. So 8% of Americans drink bottled water because it's safer than tap water. Well, that's not true. That's been proven that tap water is safe, actually safer than bottled water, because we don't know how long this bottled water has been sitting on a shelf. We don't know what kind of bacteria in that, and I'll prove that in a minute. And then 3% of Americans drink bottled water for other reasons. But Steve May, our village manager, and myself and my old boss went around and bought bottled water, 20 different bottles of different bottled water throughout the whole area. We took it to a lab. 14 of the 20 bottles of water we got failed. The EPA drinking regulations, 14 of 20 of them failed because it had so much bacteria in the water it couldn't pass the test. 6 of them did pass, but 14 of the 20 failed because they had too much bacteria. And the reason is because when you have a clear bottle like this and there's water just sitting there and it's sitting in sunlight on a shelf somewhere or sitting in a truck that's hot, bacteria is growing in that water. Now, if you keep this water cold in a dark area, it's fine. But that's why you see a lot of bottle companies now have colored bottles, like blue or green or whatever, because they don't want the light to get through. That's what's causing the problems. So anytime you buy clear bottled water like this, just think about that. Okay? Any questions about everything I covered? Yes, sir.
I seem to recall that from going to different meetings that in many of our meeting rooms here in Village Hall has bottled water. Why?
I've been fighting that for a long time now, and you can see out in the hallway, you have a brand new water dispensing. I push for that, and in fact, every building that the village owns all has dispensing water now. That I hand out those bottles like nothing to everybody. I don't care. Whoever wants one can have one. And I encourage them, and all our employees, that's what they do. They take those bottles or other bottles of water they have and they fill it up. If I catch anybody with a bottle of water in their hand, yeah, they're in big trouble. Now, here, I can't control over administration. I encourage them not to. And we used to have a refrigerator in this room right here full of bottled water. There's not anymore. But that doesn't mean that they still don't do it. I can't control everybody, but I do strongly encourage, and our manager, May, is a bigger advocate than even I am. He really hates anybody with bottled water in their hand.
Why don't they just stop buying it and providing it?
Exactly. Hopefully they will. We
Well,
we're
when
gonna-
you say they, I don't think the village is providing it.
Yeah, I think it's
Oh,
other
okay.
people, yeah. I
Okay.
think people bring it in. I don't think, the village isn't buying it, I know that.
Okay.
But I think people are bringing it in, or it's donated. We do have some companies have donated bottled water to us in the past for meetings and stuff like that.
Okay.
That's over a year ago, though. I don't know.
Yes, sir.
What is the difference between spring water and the vaporized water? Because Coca-Cola and.
It's the treatment process of how they treat the water. Vaporized water is water that's treated a different way, where they actually aerate the water and they pump air into it. And at least this is my understanding, I could be wrong, and spring water is just water that's been filtered one time. So water runs through some kind of, like like you have a filter on your faucet in your house. Just runs through the filter, and that's spring, we consider that spring water. Where the vaporized water is like distilled water, and they actually treat it a different way. Yeah, they heat it too, that's another one. Yeah, they boil it.
And then vaporize it.
Yeah, and then they right.
And then, so the process is more
Right.
complicated.
It is.
It's just a-
Well, and that's exactly what we tell our residents, when we have a water main break and we have to shut the water off, the EPA requires us to tell our residents to boil their water for 3 days. Because that gives us time to go out there and take a sample and make sure that the water's safe to drink for everyone. So if there's a block that we have to shut off in town to fix a water main break or something, we tell all the residents on that street to boil the water for 3 days, and that's exactly why, because boiling water purifies it. And then we'll go out and take a sample, and then it usually takes 24 hours to get those results, and then we go out and tell the residents, okay, it's safe to drink. But we have to assume that it's not, because we had it shut off. You know, there's always a chance when we shut the water off and it drops below 20 PSI, there's a chance that contamination could get in that water main. Now, we flush it out, when we're done, we open up the hydrant, flush it out, but that doesn't mean that some kind of microparticle or something can get in there and cause some kind of problems. So that's why we.
So if I buy, I should buy vaporized bottled water and then just a better.
Well, the problem is bottled water, you don't know how long it's been sitting there. So you could buy the purest water in the world, but if it's sitting here in the sun and the heat, bacteria is going to grow in it. Because light is what caused bacteria to grow, so. Heat.
All right, any final questions? If not, we're going to go ahead and wrap the presentation up, and want to thank Director Ramsey for coming out and providing us with this information. We greatly appreciate it. One other thing that I'll just mention is this is our annual water quality report, which by law, Village of Westmont puts this out annually. Is that accurate?
That is correct. And everybody asks, why does it say 2015 and not 2016? Because it's the results from last year. We can't, people are always confused. I went to 2016, well, that's not, 2016 is not over yet. So it is from last year, and it is our results, also the city of Chicago's results are part of that too. We combine what we do and what they do, and we put it in the report, because we do buy the water from them.
But on an annual basis, our Public Works Department puts together this information, and then we send it out to every resident in the community. And so that's the way that residents can be informed with what's happening in town.
Yeah, by law, we have to do that before July 1st every year. Every resident has to have one.
All right, well, thank you again.
Thank you. You don't need this, do you?
I don't know. Thank you. We got it.
Thank you. I'm glad you did.
Nice job.